In this video, I'm going to be talking about how I manage my teams at all of my events. Now, you've heard me talk a lot throughout this course on the importance of building out a really good team. I've also used the term getting the right people on the bus, but it all means the same thing. Having great people on your team will increase the quality of experience that your attendees have. However, just getting the right people on your team is only really part of it. Another massive part is how you actually manage those people. It's great to have an awesome person on your team, a total A player, but if they aren't managed properly and set up for success, then it really doesn't matter. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through how I manage the teams at my events and why I think this is the most effective way to manage your team. So I want to start off by first saying that as an event planner or manager or coordinator or whatever role you fall into, your job is not to do everything at the event. Your job is simply to deliver an amazing experience to your attendees. And if you can do that by doing every single job, then good job. You are the most efficient event planner on earth. However, what I've heard from many people in this industry and what I've experienced for myself is that the quality of the event will decrease if you try to do everything. And this is exactly what happened to me at the first event I ever planned. It was a 1,200 person conference in Las Vegas. And going into the event, I had pretty much planned everything with one of my colleagues. And we thought that at the event, we were the ones that had to do everything. We thought that we had to be over registration. We had to be over merchandise. We had to help out the speakers. We had to help with security. We had to help with setup. We had to help with cleanup. We thought we had to do everything, and we spread ourselves completely thin. And I'm sure you've heard the philosophy that it's really hard to excel at multiple things, and you should really just focus in on one thing. That's pretty much what I experienced at this event. I tried to be really good and I tried to be amazing at every single category inside the event, which caused it to be mediocre. However, what I should have done then and what I do now is I assign somebody who's really good at a certain part of the event as the manager of that part of the event, and I give them complete ownership over it. And my job as the event planner is to just manage those managers over the different parts of the event. In other words, I am putting the right people in the right place to make the event successful. An example of this is registration. Just because I'm the event planner doesn't mean that I'm extremely charismatic and really good at managing the flow of a bunch of people at once. So instead of forcing myself to be that person, what I can do is I can go grab someone from my team that maybe is really charismatic. I can grab somebody else that maybe is really good at systems and operations and have them take complete ownership over the registration process. And yes, I'll collaborate with them. I'll help them come up with a system and I'll be managing them, but it's them that's actually executing on this part of the event when the event comes. All right, I'm actually going to draw this out on the iPad right now just to kind of visualize what I'm talking about. So this is exactly how I run my teams. So whenever an event comes around, at the top of the org chart, there's me as the event manager. And then right below me, I will typically have my assistant event manager. And then what I'll do is I'll pick somebody that I trust, that I know will do a really good job, and I will assign them to a certain aspect of the event, and I'll give them complete ownership over it. So for example, over here, we'll have registration. Right here, we have merchandise. Right here, we have sales. Right here, we have the VIP area. Over here, we have support. Sorry, my handwriting's terrible. And for one more, we'll say over here, we have backstage. And then under each one of these managers, there are a few different team members that they are managing throughout the event. So as you can see, I'm not actually the one that's executing on these different parts of the event. I'm just putting the right people in place to ensure that the event is successful. Now for registration, obviously I put somebody in there who I think is going to be really good talking with people, and also maybe partner them up with somebody that's really good with systems and operations to help come up with the best registration system possible. And then for the sales portion, I'll usually have our president of sales or somebody on the sales team be the one that's leading that team. And then the same applies to the rest. I simply pick somebody that I think would be really good for a certain role, and I'll assign them as the manager of that role. And like I said, prior to the event, I'll work with them and help them come up with a plan for their own segment of the event. But when it becomes event time, I have so much going on that I don't really talk to them unless something goes horribly wrong. And as you can see on this org chart, they actually aren't supposed to come directly to me if something goes wrong. They'll come up to my assistant event manager and they'll talk to him. And then if something goes really wrong or he doesn't know the answer, then he will come up to me. And this has actually significantly increased the experience of my events because I'm no longer the bottleneck. At that first event that I talked about, since I was the one that had to do everything, everybody had to come grab me and ask me questions or help me put out a fire. And this was so inefficient because as I was putting out one fire, two other people would come up to me and tell me about something else that really wasn't that big of a deal, but they didn't know how to solve. So I'd have to run around the entire convention center making sure that all of the fires were put out. But with this system, every single team manager has complete ownership over their role. And as as a manager, I'm supposed to train them prior to the event so that they can put out the fires themselves. This means I'll give them all of the answers they need. So if they ever need me, that means that something is actually really wrong. I'd say over the last year and a half, as I've implemented this new management system to my events, I've only had somebody come and approach me about a fire at an event a handful of times. The rest of the time, these team managers are able to solve the problems for themselves because I gave them complete ownership, and also I trained them properly leading up to the event. So as you can see, in a way, you're kind of running your event like you are running a company. As the event manager or the event planner or the event coordinator, whatever you decide to title yourself as, you are the CEO of the event. And your job is not to do everything at the event. Your job is to make sure that the event is successful and that you deliver a great experience for your attendees. So I'm actually going to go over to my computer right now and show you the job sheet that we make for our team to make sure that they know exactly where they're supposed to be throughout the event. And also so that all the team managers know who is on their team and who they're responsible for. And lucky for you, you actually get access to this job sheet in the downloadable assets section. So make sure you download it, implement this to all your events, put your team members in there and see if it works for you. All right, so you can see over here, this is on day one. I don't know if you can see the bottom, it might be a little cut off, but this is day one of an event. Obviously I kind of blurred out stuff so that you don't know my team members' names and all their information. But right here you can see on the event team, the event manager, that's myself, and then we have my assistant event manager right here, who is basically my partner and my colleague on all of my events. And then over here we have the BC team, which is Black Card team. Black Card is a tier inside of our community, so there's somebody that's over the Black Card experience at the event, and they have 3 people on their team. Over here we have the operations team, so there's the operations team leader, and there's 4 members on their team. Then we have the sales team, the team leader with 4 people on their team. Then over here we have the media team with 1 person on their team. Now if you go over here to day 2, you can see that it's the same teams, but their jobs are a little different. And then finally over here, same teams, jobs are a little different, but you can kind of get the gist of what I'm getting at. And don't get me wrong, still is my responsibility to make sure that everybody is set up for success at the event. I will thoroughly train every single member to make sure that they have all of the information they need to deliver a successful event to the attendees. However, I think it's extremely important to structure your events so that you are not the bottleneck as the event manager. Now, obviously this is just for my event, but I think you get the point. Now, one thing that I pride myself on is at every single event, we usually have about 5 to 10 people pull myself aside or pull one of my partners aside and just say that we have such an amazing team. And they'll usually ask how we hire these people, how we find such amazing A players. And I'd say there's a lot of luck involved, but also we have core values at our company that we strongly align with, and we will typically only hire people that also align with those core values. But as I was saying, with your team being such a massive touch point at your events, it's important that you, train your team and set them up for success by giving them all the information they need and allowing them to actually self-manage and not always need you to give them the answers. And 2, structure the org chart of the event in a way that doesn't have you be the bottleneck. Because if you give your team members complete ownership over different aspects of the event, they're going to be able to properly serve the attendees if they need something, or if they're just going throughout the event as they should. All right, that's all I have for this video. Make sure you go over to the downloadable assets section and download the job sheet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.